Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to check out Kena, Bridge of Spirits. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you are new, please sure to subscribe and leave a like on the channel. And yeah, let's get right into it. Kena actually came out, Kena Bridge of Spirits came out about a month ago, digital, and I really wanted to wait for the physical copy, so I'm just barely now starting to get to play it. And wow, this game has been way better than I thought it was going to be. The visuals, the story, just everything that went into this game honestly just blew my mind away, and it still surprises me that this is still, or that this is an indie game. This is from Ember Labs. It's their very first game. And yeah, just totally blown away. First thing that I really like, guys, is the visuals for this game. It just looked phenomenal. Like, just imagine like a Pixar movie, but in a game that you could play. It was literally just like that. The guys that made these, Ember Labs, they come from an animation background. They've done like a few shorts. I'm not too familiar with them, but you could definitely tell that they have a background in animations. All the cutscenes, all the gameplay, just like when you're walking around and you see like these big open areas and you could just see way off into the distance, like just everything looks visually beautiful. I love the graphics in this game. And that's like the first thing that you notice, like right as you boot up this game, is just how good it looks. Which is honestly pretty crazy, because we've seen lots of AAA games come out not looking as good as this game does. And it's just really crazy, and I really hope that we see more indie games do this kind of stuff. Talking about the story next, guys, the story follows Kena. Obviously, she is a spirit guide who comes to this new land trying to get to the mountain shrine, and as she gets there, she finds spirits that she tries to help make their way, kind of bridge those spirits back to the spirit world. And a lot of those spirits that you're helping have had, I would say, like traumatic experiences to where they can't leave the land that they're in, the forest that they're in. I won't get too much into spoilers here, but there's a reason why some of them towards the end are there. But all the spirits that you help just have a really good backstory. For instance, the very first one, I'll just talk about that. So this is a little bit of spoiler. The first one is an older brother, and you meet his two younger brothers, and they're all passed. They're all spirits. But the brother went to go, find food or something like that. I can't exactly remember. For his brothers, ended up getting knocked out, woke up, and his brothers were gone. And he just couldn't live with the guilt and the burden of not being there for his brothers. And they all ended up passing. And he's one of the first corrupted spirits, first corrupted spirit boss. Like, there's a bunch of different bosses. And we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, the story was phenomenal. I just loved like the cutscenes and everything. They really get you drawn to a lot of these characters. Kind of the flip side of that, though, is that with all those characters, they're just developed really well. But Kena herself is just kind of lackluster. Like, she's cool and I like her, but you just don't know anything about her. And they give you like little hints and stuff that here and there. Like, they drop a hint basically saying that her dad was a spirit guide. And she's kind of going there to help find her dad, but it's all very vague, and I just wish that they had developed her side of the story just a little bit more, because all the other characters, all the other spirits that you help bridge across or help across to the next life, all had really cool backstories, and I freaking loved it. Talking about the combat next, guys, the combat was, I personally thought it was fun. It was very simple. You got your light attacks, your heavy attacks. And then once you get far enough in the game, you encounter the rot. Actually, you encounter them pretty early. But as you continue throughout the game, you find more and more of these little rot buddies. And they start to have their own little skill tree with themselves. But kind of mix and matching the combat with the rot was a lot of fun. Doing like the charged rot arrows, or you could do like an R2 slam where you basically the rot like swirl your staff and you slam it down. But combat was super simple and fun. I enjoyed it. I just wish that there was a little bit more kind of leaning into like the skill tree side of it. I thought that it would have been cool if they unlocked more abilities. It seemed like a lot of the abilities that you do unlock were pretty much like they didn't really matter. Like one of them was you get now 5 arrows instead of 4 arrows, and I kind of was like, well, I didn't really use my bow that much for combat anyway, besides like one boss fight. And just all the other stuff just didn't really matter. I would say the one that I used the most was probably the charged R2 rod attack. Like I said earlier, where you do your heavy attack, and right before you hit right after you hit R2, you hit square, and you could do like a rot charge, and it does a lot of damage. That was pretty much the only one that I really liked. But other than that, the combat was fun and simple, and I had a blast with it. It was a lot of fun, kind of going along with the combat. One of my favorite things about this game, other than the outstanding visuals, was the boss fights. The boss fights were so fun, and also surprisingly difficult at some of these boss fights. Like, you go through the game and nothing presented that big of a challenge, and then I got to, I think it was the Wood Knight, and I was just like blown away, because I was totally thinking that this was going to be more like a game targeted towards like little kids would be drawn to it. And I generally like those kind of like little games, so, you know, like Ratchet and Clank and stuff like that. Thought it was going to be exactly like this. Hit that first boss, and it put me in my place. I think it took me like 5 or 6 tries to actually beat it. And yeah, it's just like the difficulty spike went from like this and then just spiked straight up. And a lot of these bosses were definitely hard. Like, one of my favorite ones was, I'm drawing a blank on the name, but it's the second spirit that you help, and she has like a whole like hammer and stuff like that, and music is all epic, and you have to basically shoot the stone out of the sky to even do damage to her. She was definitely tough and a whole lot of fun, which kind of makes me wonder like how many people went and bought this game for their kid, thinking that it was going to be, you know, like a little kid game and easy for them, just for the little kid to just get stomped by all these bosses that are ridiculously hard. And I was just playing on the normal difficulty. I can't even imagine trying to play this on, I believe it's called Master difficulty. Just can't even imagine trying to go through this game. I mean, I probably could beat it, but I just can't imagine like a bunch of little kids trying to beat some of these bosses like the Wood Knight on Master difficulty. it'd be insane. I mentioned this a little bit, but the music for this whole game was super awesome. They had like the kind of like the Pixar type music to go along with the Pixar look to it as you're going through the forest and going through like the different abandoned towns and the ruins. Like the music just was super fitting for everything that you were doing, from the boss fights to exploration. The music was there, and it was really immersive. Like, I'd just be playing and be like, yeah, I like this. This is great. Now, one of the things that I particularly liked was the rot. I kind of mentioned a little bit in the combat, but it was kind of fun, like exploring and finding more of these little buddies to help you out as you go through the areas, fight bosses, fight just regular enemies. The rot was like a cool little addition. The only downside is that I wish that there was a little bit more, like I said, combat abilities to go with them. You got on your rot skill tree, I believe that there was only 4 different abilities that you can unlock. But other than that, I really enjoyed the rot, and you can get all these cool like little hats for them. And that's kind of like another thing, kind of segueing into the next thing, is that they have a currency in the game. As you open chests, beat enemies, whatever you do, just exploring, they give you a currency, and basically the only thing is just buying hats. And it's kind of weird because you find the hats, but you find the hats just so that you can go back and buy them from the store. So it was kind of a little kind of backwards. I just wish that there was more customization options for your rot and for Kena. Kena has no customization options. I did buy the PS5 physical edition, which is the digital deluxe edition if you guys are buying it on the PlayStation Store. And it does come with like the gold rot and like a silver staff for Kena instead of like the wood staff. I mean, it still looks wood, but it's just silver now instead of brown. But I do wish that there was more customization options. You get more than enough currency throughout the game that I never had a time where I was like, oh no, I have no money to buy a hat. So I just wish there was just a little bit more than what they had. So this game is fairly linear, although a lot of the areas you get is, I would say, semi-open world. You got like your major hub, which is I think the central village, and from there you have several branching paths that all kind of lead to the same area. But it does leave room to explore, and I enjoy that, even though they all kind of lead the same way. And they do reward you for that exploration. When I took a different path that I was like, oh, let me go see what's over here, there was always like a chest, or there was like a timed chest where you had to do a specific task where it's beat so many enemies, or jump across the rocks as you're floating up or whatever in time. And so you're always rewarded for exploration, and I really like that. Even though it was linear, they made it open enough that you didn't feel like you were just walking down a straight path the whole time. Now, there is a lot of puzzle solving in this game, and from watching like trailers and stuff, it didn't seem like it was going to be that good. And surprisingly, a lot of the puzzles did take me a few times where I had to actually kind of sit and think about how I was going to solve the puzzle. Some of them were easy, but I actually enjoyed that not all of them could just be, you know, you look at it and it's like, oh, just turn the dial once or do this, or you know what I mean? So it did some of the puzzles did take a little bit more thought than just jumping right into it, and I actually really like that. I think the progression in the game is really well balanced as you go through each different area. I believe there's 4 major areas that have kind of like little areas in between them, and each time you go to a new one, you get a new ability. Like the first time you get the bow, which you can take your staff and she turns it into a bow. And then you get like the bomb ability, and then you'll eventually get the dash ability. So you get all these different, I would say, spirit guide abilities, and they were all really fun. I think I probably used the bomb ability the most. I really liked that you can, and that's also, you can upgrade the rot ability too on that, where you throw the bomb, and when it explodes, everything kind of freezes in time. And you can, I used it a lot in the boss battles. I'd throw it, blow it up, the boss would freeze. You run in there, you get a good few hits in, run away, let the bomb recharge, throw it again. So I probably use that ability, and then like I said, the rot slam the most. But those are the 4 main abilities that you can get. Obviously each one of those has a rot type I add on to that, except for the dash. I don't think the dash one has a rot one, but you can dash into enemies and hurt them. But yeah, all the abilities were pretty fun. Like I said this earlier, I do wish that there was just a little bit more than what we got. Now, with all that being said, I actually had a super great time with Kena. I do wish that it was just a tad bit longer than what we want. One of those games that kind of it ended and it left me wanting more. And, you know, all the boss fights, like I said, were phenomenal. I loved all the boss fights. They were super fun. The story was surprisingly very well written. At least I thought. Visuals were fantastic. Although there was a few little hiccups, you know, upgrades were kind of and I personally wish that there was more cosmetic options in the store, and then Kena was kind of her weakest character. But all of that put together, Ember Labs put out a fantastic first game, and for me personally, I would give it an 8 out of 10. I think they did a super awesome job. I mean, and those little things I feel like are just minor inconveniences, and I honestly love the story. I can't wait. I hope that there's a second one. I really do. This would be one of those franchises I would really love to get invested in if they made more games along the way. But yeah, guys, 8 out of 10, super fantastic. Actually blown away that this was only an indie game. They did so well that, like, I just think about this last year. How many AAA games did we get that were not even half as good as this? You know, it's just, I just hope that we see a lot more indie games like this in the future. And that's going to be it, guys, for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.